So Black Ops Cold War is now playable via the alpha on PlayStation 4 this weekend. I've played lots of matches so far and I've fine-tuned a really great bunch of settings and controls in the Black Ops Cold War menu to help you go on really high streaks in the game. So this video is going to be the best settings in Black Ops Cold War for the alpha, beta and the final game. So make sure you stick around to the end of the video so you don't miss out on any important tips and that you get the most out of this guide in terms of the control settings, the graphics, audio, interface and any other account settings in the game. If you're interested, make sure to check out all of my other Black Ops Cold War videos for the alpha and beyond. I've got ones coming for the alpha this weekend and then also the beta and then the full game when it releases as well, depending on when you're watching this video. Now obviously because this video was recorded during the alpha, certain settings may have changed, but the vast majority of them and the principles of them will be the same, so it will be pretty much the same whenever you're watching this video, but just be aware that some things may have changed slightly with the final game. If you find this useful, be sure to leave a like on the video, it really helps me out, and feel free to subscribe with your post notifications turned on so that you don't miss out on any upcoming Modern Warfare, Warzone or Black Ops Cold War videos. I'm going to have lots of challenge guides, tips videos, generally useful videos for these games in the near future, so keep an eye out for those. Now let's get into these settings then. So the first tab is for the controller settings, and the main things I'd focus on would first of all be the horizontal stick sensitivity. Now I've got this on an 8, which is apparently high. It can go up to 14 horizontal sensitivity. That's obviously the left and right sensitivity, which is the sort of main one you'll be using, so definitely very important. I've got mine on 8 for this game, which is actually about medium, so feel free to tailor that as you will. And I've got my vertical stick sensitivity on 7. Now for both these sensitivities, what I do to find out your perfect sensitivity for you is to start in the middle, which is 7 or 8, and then go up or down until you find your sweet spot, which is where you'll be able to look around and aim at enemies easily while being accurate with your aiming and sort of not overshooting to where you need to aim. So if you need to aim at an enemy and you go right past them, then that likely means that your sensitivity is a little bit too high. So just play around with it until you are happy with it. And as well as everything else in this setup, feel free to tailor anything you want in the settings to your own personal playstyle, but this is my advice and my settings. So that'll be my sensitivities. Now for the aim down sight stick sensitivity for the low zoom version, which is for sights that are less than 4 times magnified, I kept that on 1, but I know you may want to decrease that a little bit, e.g. to 0.9, just to improve that accuracy whilst aiming down sight. But I kept mine on 1, but I may reduce it slightly in the future, but feel free to do that if it helps. For the aim down sight stick sensitivity for the higher zoom levels, i.e. for optics and sights that are above 4 times magnified, I would just keep that on 1. What about the button layout then? Well, for me, for quite a few years, I've kept my button layout on tactical. This is where it basically swaps the melee button with the crouch button. So on PlayStation, you'd swap the circle with the R3 button basically. On Xbox, you'd swap B with the RS button. The reason I like this is because you're more easily able to crouch or go prone or stand up and adjust your position, because that is all part of the game and trying to survive longer, and you don't really use melee as much, at least not at the moment, I would have thought, in Black Ops Cold War. So using the R3 button on PlayStation, which is RS on Xbox, that allows you to adjust your position a bit better so that you're likely to survive longer, and it sort of deprioritizes the melee, which you can still use by pressing the circle or B button, depending on which platform you're on. But those would be my preference, and I'm used to that now, and I really do prefer that. Helps with sliding and going prone and stuff like that. Personally, I'd recommend giving that a try if you haven't already. Give it a few games, see what you think. It takes a little bit getting used to, but now obviously it's second nature for me and I find that much more useful. But feel free to go on whatever button layout you guys want. And then for the next setting, which is the flip L2 R2 with L1 R1, leave that as default. Don't flip it because that just becomes confusing unless you specifically want that for a specific reason, but I don't see why you would. But it's good that they've got these extra settings just in case people do feel they want to change. And then for the invert vertical look, keep that disabled as well. Otherwise, what you press to look up and down will swap and that just becomes very confusing. For the controller vibration, keep this enabled. It gives feedback on being shot at and shooting my weapons, etc. But I know some people like to turn it off to improve their accuracy. For me, if I turn it off, it feels very weird without the vibration, and my personal preference would be to keep it on because it just helps a little bit better. But I know some people it's distracting more than it is a help, so if that's the case, feel free to turn it off, give it a try, and if you don't like it, put it back on. So for the gameplay, and I believe that with the next gen consoles, the PS5 and the Xbox, they've got more useful vibration settings where different scenarios will produce different types of vibration feedback. I'm not 100% sure, but I believe that's the case, and so if that is so, then obviously that can help you very very much with getting feedback in the game in terms of how you need to improve or change your performance. So if that's the case, I'd recommend keeping it on, but for now it's not as advanced as that, and so if you turn it off, you're not quite affected in the same way. What about the gameplay settings then? This is under the controller tab still. So the slowdown and strafing aim assist, this you want to keep enabled, and this slows down sensitivity when your aim is on enemy targets, so it helps with your accuracy just a little bit to stay more on target to get that kill. For the aim down sight behavior, I would keep it as the press and hold to aim down sight and then release to stop aiming down sight, because the alternative is that you literally press the trigger once to aim down sight and then press it again to come out of aim down sight, and I find that very confusing. It's more difficult to respond to things, and I think it's easier to mess up that way. It's easier to make mistakes when pressing the button, so I'd keep it as it is. It feels more natural, and not really much else to say on that point. And then for the attack vehicle control mode, you want to keep this aim base, because when moving forward, vehicles or score sheets will automatically turn in the direction you're looking at. I wouldn't change that. In terms of the graphics settings, most of these probably won't need to change that much, but the safe area bounds, make sure the arrows are close to the area of the TV screen or monitor but not touching the edges, and this is so that you avoid any of the HUD going off the screen, because you don't want any parts of your screen such as your ammo count or lethals or anything like that going off the screen. You don't want that. I believe you have to go to the actual console settings to change this rather than just changing them in game. So for the PlayStation, you have to go to the sound and screen settings, and then it's different for Xbox, so it's not the same as just going to the menu like it is in most games. For the brightness, you will have set this up when you first go on, but you just need to adjust it with the in-game aid to see the three logos, where the first one is not visible, the second one is barely visible, and the third one is easily visible. So adjust that until you get what they're asking for. Then moving on, the motion blur, 100% disable this, turn it off straight away. By disabling it, you prevent an added blur effect, which you get when you or objects are moving rapidly. So if you look left and right, you'll see a very big blur in front of you, and it's very off-putting for gameplay, and it's more difficult to see or respond to enemies. So make sure you turn it off. Don't let it come back on. I'll just say that now. If you're curious, try it quickly in game and see what I mean. Look left and right, sprint about, just move about a little bit, and you'll see that it is very off-putting. I'm not sure why they have this on, because I think most people will just turn it off anyway. And for the audio, mute sound, I'd keep that not muted, because otherwise you won't be able to hear the other things. And then I'd keep the master, sound effects, and dialogue volume at 1.0, so the normal default amount. But the music volume, I would turn that down a little bit, for example, to something like 0.75, as this can help to hear enemies or in-game sounds a little bit better, otherwise the music might be a little bit too loud for you. But obviously feel free to tweak it however you want, depending on how you're listening to things, if you've got headphones on or if it's through the TV or speakers or whatever it is. So obviously it depends on your scenario and your situation. The cinematics volume, again, I turn that down slightly to something like 0.9, just so you can hear other things a little bit better. And the audio presets comes as a default with the Treyarch mix, which is fine. But if you want a little bit more advantage, something like the headphones option might be a little bit better, but that's probably best only if you are actually wearing headphones, because this helps to hear enemies and noises in game a little bit better. I would recommend wearing headphones if you've got them, and if so, put on the headphones mix. And then for the voice chat, I've just kept this disabled. Keeps it easy. I don't want to be distracted by people talking and stuff like that. I know sometimes it can be fun talking to people, but I don't want to be distracted by it, so I turn that off. I reduced my mic volume down to 0, and then I put the chat channel on party, which is my preference, but obviously feel free to do whatever you guys want. And then for the interface settings, for general, you've got the subtitles, so make sure these are disabled, obviously unless you need them, if you can't hear the in-game dialogue. Otherwise, the text will take over more of your screen. Obviously, it can be a little bit more distracting and a bit more difficult to see, but if you need to hear something and you're not very good at hearing the dialogue, or you have a hearing impairment, obviously that is a valid reason to keep it on. For the damage-based hit markers, keep them shown. This displays different hit markers depending on the type of damage inflicted, which differs between regular hits, lethal hits, equipment hits, score streak hits, and other things like that. So it gives better feedback in game depending on what types of hits you're getting. So if you're shooting someone, obviously the first few bullets would do damage, so it will do the regular hit marker, and then once you actually kill them, it will do the lethal hit marker, and the same, it will vary depending on if you're hitting equipment or score streaks, whatever it is. So it's very useful for that regard, especially sometimes at the further distances. If you're shooting someone or something from far away and you can't fully see or tell what's going on, this will help you a little bit better with recognizing what it is you're shooting and how much damage you've done. And then finally, for the account and network settings, I wouldn't change too much of this, except if you need to change your Activision display name if needed. So that'll be your name that shows up in the game. So for mine, I've changed mine to my actual gamer tag, but you can put it to whatever you want. This is based off your Activision account, not your console or platform name. The reason for this is because you're playing across platforms. And then for the in-game alert icons, I keep these disabled. It shows up icons such as latency and packet bursts and stuff like that on your HUD to alert you that your connection is poor and other problems like that. But these can be distracting or off-putting in the game, so I keep them off unless you actually notice that your connection seems to be a bit fruity and a bit poor, in which case you can turn them on and confirm what the problem is. But personally, I just keep them off because I find it very distracting when it keeps saying, oh, your connection's a little bit terrible, oh, I'm not sure you'll be able to get that kill, or you might not go on the street because, oh, that connection's not very good, oh, you got a little bit of packet loss. I find it very distracting. Turn it off, keep it off. So those are the main best settings. Obviously you can tailor it to your own playstyle and whatever you guys want, but that'll be my advice. If you've got any tips or any feedback on this settings, things that you think I should have recommended a little bit differently, feel free to leave that down below in the comment section. If you found it useful, be sure to leave a like on the video. It really helps me out, and feel free to subscribe so you don't miss out on any upcoming Modern Warfare, Warzone or Black Ops Cold War videos. And make sure to check out the playlist in the description with the Black Ops Cold War alpha videos, any best class setups and any stuff like that. Make sure to stick around to my channel because I've got lots of useful guides coming Black Ops Cold War to help you get even better at the game and to complete the challenges as easily as possible. So you're going to want to stick around for that, and feel free to check out the videos on the end screen at the end of this video. But cheers guys for watching, and hopefully I'll see you all on the next video.